Hey everyone, it's Mafalda and welcome to my May favorites. So, long time no see, not really for you because I've been uploading every week because I pre-filmed a lot of stuff, but I haven't filmed a video in probably 3 weeks because I was busy with school, but now it's finally over. My semester is over and I'm on summer break, so I can finally film. And so today I'm bringing you a very late May favorites. I know we're already in the middle of June, so I'll be filming my June favorites in a couple of weeks, but I thought I would still film my May favorites because I consumed a lot of good stuff in the month of May, even though it wasn't my best reading month. But yeah, let's just get started. Also, I have a new filming setup, which I'm so happy about. I'm still like figuring stuff out, especially in terms of my background, but I really like it. So let's get started with my May favorites. And first I'm going to talk about music, and I just have to mention the album that everyone else is talking about because I am also obsessed, and it's Sour by Olivia Rodrigo. I was already super excited about this album because I love the 3 singles from the album: Good For You, Driver's License, and Deja Vu. I actually try not to hype anything before it comes out because I don't like to suffer the consequences of not liking it as much as I thought I would. So I try to keep my expectations down for this album, but honestly, Miss Olivia just keeps serving, and I know we're still halfway through the year, but I think this is 100% my favorite album of 2021. It's just so good. I love every single song. I actually did a ranking of the songs on Twitter, but since then it has kind of changed, like some things have changed. And even though I did that ranking of the songs, I still love every single one of them. Even the one that I put on the last spot, I absolutely love, and I don't skip this album. I think it's perfect and concise, and every single song is amazing, and I love that not every single song of the album is about relationships, and it's also about growing up and being jealous of other people, and there's just so many good songs. I think my favorite songs off of the new songs that we got from the album are definitely Traitor, that's my favorite. Then it's Brutal, and I also really like Favorite Crime and Happier and Jealousy. Like, I love all of the songs, to be honest. And I feel like every single week I have a new ranking of the songs, to be honest, because it just really depends on my mood. And wow, I'm so happy that the album is great and that I loved it, and definitely my favorite album of 2021. So that was my first music favorite, and then at the end of the month we also had Eurovision, and if you're not from Europe, you probably have heard about Eurovision because not only does it have a Netflix movie, which I really need to watch because I still haven't, but also around this time I feel like every single person in Europe talked about Eurovision because it's just such a big competition here in Europe. And honestly, every single year I find a new artist or a new song that just becomes an instant favorite. And with this year's winner, which was Italy with Måneskin, I am so obsessed with them. They weren't my personal top pick to win Eurovision, but I was still so happy that they won because I think they totally deserve it. They're younger than me and they're so talented, and I just think it was really well deserved, even though it was like on my top 3 or top 5 of winning songs. But yeah, I saw them win and I was like, wow, bisexuals have won again. And then I just started going through their old songs, and their 2021 album is so good. It's called Teatro Dira, and oh my god, I'm obsessed with all of the songs, especially the song Coraline, which is the second song in the album. It's so beautiful. Even though they're speaking in Italian, I just feel their passion and their emotion, and the song is so good. Then I listen to the song with the English subtitles, and oh my god, it's beautiful and heartbreaking and everything, and oh my god, it's amazing. So I'm obsessed with Måneskin. If you somehow haven't listened to Måneskin and haven't seen their Eurovision performance, please go check it out because they are just so sexy and talented, and I'm obsessed. So yeah, that was also another music favorite for May. Now moving on to movies and TV shows, and I don't know why, but in May I just rewatched a lot of old movie favorites. I rewatched Brokeback Mountain, High School Musical 2, The Peanuts movie, Camp Rock, Ratatouille, and Twilight. I don't know why, but I just rewatched a bunch of stuff and I just have been getting a lot of comfort and serotonin from rewatching old, especially old Disney movies, because I love them. And like watching High School Musical, I remember I watched that on a day that I was having like the shittiest day ever, and it just made my day watching High School Musical 2, which is the best one in the trilogy, don't fight me. And then for new stuff that I watched finally Nomadland, which is a movie from last year, and I went to the cinema finally after like 6 months of not going, and I watched Nomadland, and it's basically about a woman who is played by Frances McDormand, and she is a widow and she lives in her van basically, and it's about the people in the United States that live in their vans because they don't have any other conditions, but also because they like it. It's kind of a depressing movie, but it's also really good and beautiful and has a lot of great messages, so if you haven't watched it, go watch it. And then I also watched the Friends reunion, which everyone and their mother was talking about at the end of the month. And I do have an unpopular opinion, I feel like, because I feel like everyone loved it and I feel like everyone was feeling all of the emotions, and I get it because Friends means a lot to me, but at the same time I feel like the reunion was underwhelming. I don't know why, I don't know what it is, what it was, what happened, but I just wanted more, you know? I feel like it was very confusing, and I really like the parts where they were all together in Monica's apartment. I really like those parts, but then the parts where they had the interviewer and the crowd and everything, those parts just didn't do it for me, and I felt like it had a lot of that. I just feel like I wanted more, but I also wanted less of what was given to us, you know? I just wanted like something different. But yeah, it was still enjoyable. I still had fun watching it, but I just felt like it could have been the same length but with some different stuff in it and more about them and about their experience working there. Like I said, Friends means a lot to me. I grew up watching it with my family and I just have a lot of fond memories of growing up and watching it. And I know there's a lot of controversial stuff in the show, but it still means a lot to me and it's honestly my comfort TV show, so yeah, I just wanted more, but you know, it's whatever. I always forget to talk about TV shows because I rarely watch any new TV shows, but I watched in May It's a Sin. It's a mini series of like 6 episodes or something. It's about the AIDS epidemic in London and it's super good and interesting, so check it out. And now moving on to books. I feel like May wasn't my best reading month. I don't really know why, I just didn't really feel like reading, and that's okay. So I still read 13 books, which is pretty great, and I'm just saying that it's not my best reading month because in comparison to my previous months it's not the best, because I think in April I read like 18 books or something. So, and honestly I struggled to get to 13 books. I felt like I wasn't going to finish my TBR, but thankfully I did. And yeah, my reads were pretty great. I have 8 books to talk about today, so let's just get started. So the first book that I read in the month of May was Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia, and I had been meaning to read this book for like the past 5 years because I think in 2016 or 17 this book was super popular, but I never really got around to it, so finally did, and I really enjoyed it. I gave this book I think 3.75 out of 5 stars, which is pretty great. And this book follows Eliza, and at school she's not really popular and she doesn't really have a lot of friends, but then online she is known as Lady Constellation, and she's the creator of a very popular webcomic called Monstrous Sea, which has thousands of fans and a lot of like fan fiction around it and everything, and she's really successful online but not in real life. And then one day a guy moves to her school who is called Wallace, and Wallace confesses to Eliza that he's one of the most famous fanfiction writers for her webcomic Monster Sea, but she decides not to tell him that she's the creator, and then it obviously gets messy. This was a really fun YA contemporary with a lot of hard-hitting topic, especially about mental health. That is one of the main topics discussed in this book because Eliza has anxiety and depression, I think. I do understand some critics about the mental health rep in this book because in some aspects it wasn't really the best, but at the same time I've heard a lot of people say that this was a very comforting read for them because of the mental health representation. So I don't know, keep in mind that you may like it, you may not. I personally didn't have a lot of problems with it, but other than that, I enjoyed it. I just didn't feel like I really connected with the main character a lot. I didn't really like her, honestly, and I don't know if that was a point of the author making an unlikable main character, but I just didn't really connect and didn't really like Eliza, but I like the themes discussed. Also, the book all throughout has like illustrations of the webcomic that Eliza is supposedly writing, and I did enjoy that part of the book because I felt like it brought something new to the story, but at the same time I just kind of like skipped those parts, to be honest, because sometimes it would be like almost a chapter, or let me see if I can find it, but like a chapter of her webcomic, and I was just like not really interested, so I'm just gonna skip. Maybe I wasn't supposed to do that, but I just did. But yeah, I finally read this one. I feel like this is a booktube staple and finally got around to it, so yeah. Now the next book that I really enjoyed reading in May was Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng, and I finally got around to it, and I said it in my TBR video that I really wanted to watch a TV show for it, and I still haven't, so yeah, I guess I don't really want to watch a TV show, I don't know. But yeah, I really enjoyed the book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And this book follows 2 families in the suburbs. It follows the Richardsons, who are a rich white family, basically. And then it follows a single mother and her daughter who have just moved into the neighborhood. And it basically is about the 2 families connecting. But then a couple who is friends with the Richardsons decides to adopt a Chinese American baby. And that makes the single mother and the Richardsons on opposite sides of a custody battle. And this book was just so interesting, and I love how Celeste Ng makes her characters. This is my first Celeste Ng, but I will definitely pick up her other book, Everything I Never Told You, because I've also heard a lot of great things about that one, and I just love how she makes her characters. I feel like they were so vivid and so real, and I just love how easily I was grasped into the story and I was rooting for the characters, and I just love how the story was told. And yeah, I just really enjoyed this one. I really want to still watch the TV show, which I still haven't watched. I don't know how, but it has Reese Witherspoon, so I need to watch it. Now the next favorite that I want to mention is The Girl with Seven Names by Yoon Seo Lee, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars, and I also really enjoyed this one. But this is the second book that I read about a North Korean woman or girl at the time escaping her country, escaping North Korea and going to another country to find freedom and to find a good life. And I read the first one, In Order to Live, last year, and I really enjoyed that one. And I read this one now and I feel like I didn't enjoy it that much, which is really weird to say because this is a non-fiction book and I don't like to judge people's stories, because I don't know, I felt like the book kind of dragged for some reason, and I don't know if it was because I read it in Portuguese, I don't really know, but I still gave it a 4 star, which is a good rating. And I actually finished reading this book in a vlog, so you can check it out up here, but I mentioned it in that vlog. It's so surreal to read about North Korea and realize that that is an actual country where those things actually happen. I felt like I was kind of reading a science fiction book or a dystopian book. It's so weird that at the same time that I'm filming this, people are living in North Korea under those restrictions and laws and everything, and it's crazy to me to grasp that concept. I honestly still want to read a book about the actual history of the Koreas, because even though I read a little bit about that in these 2 books about North Korean defectors that I read recently, I still feel like I want to know more about this war that separated a country in 2, because it's just so weird and fascinating, and just thinking how different the 2 Koreas are. But yeah, nevertheless, I really enjoyed this book, and if you haven't read one of these 2 books that I talked about, The Girl with Seven Names or In Order to Live, pick up one of them. I promise you, you will not regret it, because it's such an eye-opener for the stuff that is going on in our world. And yeah. Now the next favorite that I have for the month of May was Yolk by Mary H.K. Choi. First of all, I just want to say that I've seen discover everywhere, and I was like, I really want this book because it probably has a yellow spine and it's gonna go so well with my other rainbow books, which you can't really see right now. And then the book has a black spine. I was fooled. I was fooled. I should have bought the hardback. I'm so mad about it, but whatever. This was a great book. This was my first Mary H.K. Choi. I mentioned in one of my videos, I don't know what it was called, but I will put it up here. It was like 5 authors that I wanted to try this year, and Mary H.K. Choi was one of them. And I wasn't really planning on picking up Yolk so fast, but then I heard so many great things about it when it came out, so I just instantly bought it. And I actually listened to most of the audiobook because when I got the book it was already too late, but I'm so glad that I got a copy for myself because I feel like this is going to be a book that I refer back to because it was so well done. And this book is about 2 sisters, June and Jane, and as they grow older they're not that close anymore, and one day Jane goes to meet June at a cafe unexpectedly, and Jane tells June that she has cancer and she's probably going to die. And I feel like that is enough to grasp you into the story, but I feel like this book has so much more depth to it, and I think I mentioned that in also one of my vlogs when I was listening to this audiobook, but I just feel like Mary H.K. Choi makes such believable characters because this is a YA contemporary, which is my favorite genre to read from, but I still, even though it's my favorite genre, I feel like sometimes it's like the characters are not that believable. I feel like some things are sometimes far-fetched and exaggerated, but I feel like it's hard to find a book where I suddenly forget that those are fictional characters and not real people, and that kind of happened with this one. I just kept thinking about Jane and June as real people because they were so well explored and detailed, and I felt like their relationship was so real, and I just really like that aspect of the story. I'm definitely going to pick up more Mary H.K. Choi because of that. I just really enjoyed this one. I really like the relationship between the 2 main characters, and I love how this book was about sisters because we don't get a lot of that from YA contemporaries, honestly. It's always about romance, and I really like that this is about 2 sisters just kind of coming together and dealing with very hard stuff. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. Also this cover, even though I was complaining about the spine, I just love this. I don't know if you can tell, but these are the 2 main characters, and they're like holding hands here at the middle, and it's beautiful. I love it. And yeah, I'm so glad that I picked this book up on a whim. Honestly, it wasn't even on my TBR, but I'm so glad, and I gave this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. Now the next book that I want to talk about is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. Finally picked it up and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I will definitely continue with the series. And this book follows, I realized I was saying Leia, but it's Laia, like people say Laia, so it follows our main character Laia, and her grandparents have been murdered and her brother has been captured by the Empire, and so she decides to join the rebels. And so with the help of the rebels she joins the Empire's military academy so she can maybe set her brother free, and there she meets what is he called? Elias. And Elias is in the military academy and he's the son of like the leader, I guess. What is she called? I don't know anymore. But yeah, he's like the son of the leader, but he doesn't really agree with any of that stuff that he's in. I really enjoyed this one. I really like the writing, I really like the characters, but I do gotta say that it took a little bit of time to pick up. I felt like the second half of the book was a lot better than the first half. I felt like the first half was taking a long time to progress and to finally get the story started. And when the 2 main characters finally met was when the story actually got interesting, so that was like halfway through the book. But yeah, I still really enjoyed it. I'm going to pick up the second book in the series, and I'm super excited to continue, honestly. I know that the story gets even better in the second and third and fourth book, so I'm excited to continue. Now the next favorite, I just wanted to briefly mention it, and it was our book club pick for May, and it was Darius the Great is Not Okay by Deepika Ram. I don't have the book physically with me right now because I lent it to my sister, but I really enjoyed that book. I gave the book 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's definitely a new favorite. I'm going to pick up the second book in that duology, and if you want to learn more about my thoughts and Casey's thoughts on that book, I will leave the link right here to the live show. Is it right here or am I seeing it wrong? I think it's right here. But I will leave the link to the live show that we did on Casey's channel about that book, and also about Hood Feminism, which was our nonfiction baddies book club pick for April and May. Yeah. So yeah, I will leave our thoughts there, but I really enjoyed it. Now the next book that I want to talk about is The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. And this book, I felt like I kind of rushed through it because I was getting to the last week of the month and I still hadn't read it, and I picked up the audiobook and I listened to most of it on audio, but I feel like I would have enjoyed this one more if I read it just physically and took my time with it. And this book follows a pair of twins, Estelle and Rahel, and it's basically about their life and their family and the people around them in India, and especially focusing on one time when they were younger and their British cousin went to visit them and she mysteriously died and no one really knows what happened to her, and it's kind of like following that time, and we're learning about the characters and everything that happened in that day, but also how they grew up. And yeah, it's just a really complex story about a really big family and all of the people around them in India, and it was so interesting and so complex, and I just felt like I kind of rushed through it, but still I give it 4 out of 5 stars. It's definitely a book that I will reread because I need to reread it, because I feel like it's going to be a 5-star if I reread it, honestly. And yeah, I just really like how the relationships are built in the story, and I loved the writing. The writing was probably my favorite part of the book. It was just so beautiful and lyrical, and I feel like I would have highlighted the shit out of this if I took my time with it. So this is definitely on my reread pile, which I have a lot of books to reread, but it will definitely go there, and one day in a few years I'll pick it back up and finally take my time with it, because this book really demands that. It demands your attention and it demands your time with it. So if you don't have a lot of time like I did in May, don't pick it up. Pick it up when you're ready for it. So yeah, but it's still a great book. And the last book that I wanted to briefly talk about is actually a NetGalley arc that I had, but the book is already out. I think it came out at the beginning of June or at the end of May, I'm not really sure. And it's Cheer Up, Love and Pom-Poms by Crystal Fraser. And this is a graphic novel and it's super short. It's like 150 pages or something, and I don't even think it's going to be like a series. It's just a standalone book, and it follows our main character Annie, and she's a really good student and she's a lesbian and she doesn't really have a lot of friends. And one day she decides to join the cheerleader squad, and there in the cheerleader squad she meets Bibi, who is a trans girl, and she's trying to be perfect for her parents because otherwise they won't support her transition. And it's about their relationship and Annie and Bibi forming a friendship, and it's a super cute graphic novel. I really like the illustration style of the graphic novel. I just felt like it was kind of rushed because it's only like 140 pages or something, and if it took a little bit more time, I feel like it could have been developed way more, and I just think it had a lot of potential to be a lot longer than it was, but I still really enjoyed it and I highly recommend it if you haven't checked it out. And that concludes my May favorites. I wasn't used to talking this much on camera and I feel like I need to lay down for 3 days, so that's what I'm gonna do. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe down below if you haven't, and I will see you on my next one. Bye!